Doctor Strange is a huge success. What's this mean for the MCU in the future of films? Next up on Just a Thought. So let's talk about it. And welcome to the Flicks, Picks, and the Nitpicks. And I'm your number host, No718, and we're back at it Just a Thought. And Doctor Strange 2, big success. Everyone's talking about it. Yeah, the second week dropped, but not as significant as people try to make it out to be. Everything doesn't need to be $1 billion to be successful. People expected this film to be $1 billion. I've yet to see it yet, but I plan on seeing it maybe tomorrow or the day after. We'll see. But the bottom line is that it is a success. And what this means for the future of films. Now, here's the thing. Every film now has to make these wild, crazy numbers in order to be considered a success, which is sad. Because it takes away from the artistry of filmmaking. Because you can't... it's whack. Why? It only made like $899 million. And it's like, really? It's still a success. Now, the budget could be crazy, so it might not be profitable. But that doesn't mean that's not a success. That's a lot of coins. So to sit here and say that it didn't do anything is kind of like slap in the face of what they've produced. But now films have this almost unfair depiction that they have to make a certain amount of box office. Not everything has to be that way. But unfortunately, that's the wave and that's how it's being looked at. And yeah, you have to pay attention from budget versus profit. So there's always going to be that. Then there's a certain amount that goes into advertising, promotion. And then people also forget this back-end deals that you could get a lot more money off the merchandising. Like, a lot of people are not aware that a lot of these, especially comic book films, they get a bulk of their money from the merchandising. That's very profitable. That's why there was a weird relationship with Marvel, with Spider-Man and the rights, and how they was able to do their deal. So Marvel gets their money on the if I'm not mistaken, Marvel gets their money on the merchandising. Like, I'm talking all things that they would get outside of it, from action figures to I don't know, clothing, licensing deals they may make with other third-party companies that will actually make clothes with the likeness of these characters. There's a lot of cross-marketing and cross-merchandising that you can do that is very lucrative to a business. That's why the merchandising might sometimes be even worth more than the actual film rights. And a lot of people are not exactly aware of those two dynamics, and that's the way that they were able to procure their shared agreement to bring Spider-Man into the MCU EU universe when it's owned by another company. When you make sure you make these deals, now there's a relationship there. Marvel's invested in making sure these films are not only cohesive but makes quality film, because it will reflect in the merchandising. And with Spider-Man being, I think, #1 most recognizable character and superhero in the world, like over Superman if I'm not mistaken, and it's #1 merchandise, the merchandising agreement that they did, even for a short period of time while they borrowed Spider-Man, was probably worth more than the box office. So they can actually say, we could help run your film, but we get that on the back end on the merchandise. We could put Spider-Man rides out and this, that, and all. Disney will get all of that. We could put Spider-Man stuff in Disney, at the Disney resort, because they got the licensing deals. Now they can make the real paper, the real money, pimping the name. Because the name is going to bring success. And if you know with your And it's going to help Sony as well, because Sony's going to make a lot of money because of the 10 years that they've built. And now inserting Spider-Man into that is a crazy cash cow. It's a marriage made in heaven. And it makes you already part of a winning team. So Sony looked at it was a great deal. Now, a lot of people have this weird thing that Sony should just give Marvel. No one's doing that. They're going to continue to make Spider-Man. They're not trying to let that go. That just is what it is, what it is. They bought that. They're going to try and hang on to it forever. And Marvel knew that. So they found the only way they could make it work together. And they did something that you will seldom see since like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, when you bring in the WB and Disney was able to put that film together. From what I understood, it was such a hard time doing it that you probably never see nothing like that again until Sony was able to do something with Disney. But this was very different. But still, they made it work. Now, in terms of the future of films have to compete against the notoriety and expansion of the marketing for comic book movies and series and everything. I mean, it's just so much money into it, and it's a staple. It's here to stay. The question is how do you move in front of it? This ain't like back in the day when G.I. Jane could get a lot of notoriety. More Better Blues people could talk about for long periods of time, where you could have A Few Good Men could come out and people talk about it for a long time. These type of movies cannot sustain the same type of attention span or grasp the attention span of people that are thoroughly invested in over 10 years of films and TV franchises that all tell one big cohesive, large, one universe story. It's hard to compete. There'll be Selmas and 20 Years a Slave, but remember, that was before the streaming wars. Those big movies of high prestige. I mean, that's why you're seeing a lot of directors having issues with the notoriety that comic book film franchise has done, because it's taking up the talk of what good films are, and it's forcing people now to judge a good film by its box office success. Something that wasn't exactly done before. You judge the film by... Films will get greenlit based on the success. That's always been the nature of the business. But a good movie could stand and be very respectable back then and slow grow and find its legs to be at least successful. It's hard to do that nowadays. Like I said, so much spectacle film is in post-pandemic people. And I'm going to do a little bit more research on it. I don't think the movie industry, even though with these high budgeted films overperforming, it makes people say, all right, well, how can we get these other films are not cutting the mustard and bringing people in? Single-handedly, the comic book movies are saving the film genres, making people want to come out. All these other films, people be like, I'll save my money on those and wait for streaming, and by the time streaming comes around, unless they're really interested in that film, they'll look for it, but out of sight, out of mind, because so many other films will pop up, and a lot of which will be comic book movies that a lot of people are invested in. This has affected regular movies moving forward. It's going to be an uphill battle, the battle for the shine, to get the spotlight, to be in notoriety, to be acknowledged as, yo, this was a good film that just came out. It's going to be hard for the future of films. But what does this mean for the future of the MCU now? They raise a high bar every time that it's going to be harder and harder for them to be able to live up to all the time, especially in the 0 to 100 society. And what I mean by that is, have you ever not noticed that if a film gets less than an A+, it feels like people be like, oh, it's horrible, it got like a C+ or a B-, and it's like, not every film has to be at A+, let alone A+ to be good. It seems like once you fall out of the A letter grade, it's either A+, extremely good, or you're just horrible. If you're not A+, you're just not cutting the mustard. And it's disregarded. And because now we're just focusing on the box office as opposed to the artistry of the film, the quality of the film, and its relevance and importance to the time or the moment in which it came out. And that doesn't always mean that it has to be reflective of society, stuff like that. But more important, it is reflective of where we're at in storytelling now. And a lot of movies are going to have to try to compete for that shine. Otherwise, it's to the streaming you will probably go. Or if you make it into theaters, your expectation is going to be very low. So you got to really hit it. Be very good to even catch the word of mouth to make people even want to go see a film, especially if it's not, if it can't compete in terms of being the same genre as a comic book movie can be in terms of action and fantasy and stuff. You know what I mean? Just a regular, like a regular film, like single white female. Can we do that again and make that something that we talk about all the time? I don't know no more, because even if it hits big, it gets drowned out quicker now than before, because there's always a new movie or a new trending topic. I can't think of a movie that's had that much staying power in pop culture in terms of the conversation when we talk movies and film. I mean, and if you have, please leave it in the comments below. Maybe I'm just not thinking about any at the moment. Yeah, we had our 10 years of 20 years a slave. If I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Hold on a sec. Yeah, 12 years a slave. And notice you see a trend, but those are usually the spicy films of conversation. One thing I will say is we gotta wait for Top Gun. Top Gun may bring us back to those times where it's about quality storytelling. And if Top Gun does well and has a great balance of dialogue, drama, acting, as well as the spectacle of, and they use a lot of practical effects, he can bring back a vibe of those type of 90s films with updated shooting, because we got drones now, so we can do some real impressive shots. You have Mission Impossible. If you can stack films like this back to back to back, I think we could bring back action and blockbuster films, and maybe even thrillers that are at the level in conversation as these comic book movies. I mean, what is it? Gone Girl? I remember when people talked about that. We just need more of those. Argo. We need just more of these hitting. Black Jesus and the Black Messiah. I think that should have had a lot more talk about. Haven't seen it yet, but remember, we was dealing with the pandemic. These are the type of films that we need to hit with. The Irishman. These are the type of films that, I think it's The Irishman, yeah, with Martin Scorsese. Even though I heard the CGs wasn't the bomb, still, this is what we need to see. So that bottom line is, let me know what you guys think. Do you think that these larger than life, big budget films are affecting regular films now? Do you think that it's harder for a regular drama like of that we could have seen of the 90s, that could have been all the rage and all the talk and be at the front lobe of the conversation when it comes to Hollywood films? Can we see those days again? I think Tom Cruise might be the guy to do it with Top Gun 2 and Mission Impossible, but he's going to need a lot more other movies coming right behind him. But we shall see. But I'm really interested in what you guys think in the comments below. So let me know, jump in, let's get into the talk. You already know what it is. And like, share, subscribe. See you next time. And as always, I have a bit of outro. Chill.